The first time Daniel heard his dead brother speak, he was standing alone in a hospital hallway at 3 in the morning. The lights above him flickered. Once. Twice. Then every light in the corridor went dark. Daniel froze. Somewhere behind him, a voice whispered his name. Daniel! He turned around. The hallway was empty. His heart began to pound. Then the voice came again. This time, it was closer. You still have time. Daniel slowly looked toward the end of the corridor. A figure stood there. A man. Tall. Thin. Completely motionless. Daniel could not see his face, but he knew who it was. His brother Michael had been dead for 12 years. And the last thing Michael had said to him before dying was something Daniel had spent his entire life trying to forget. Someday, Michael had whispered from his hospital bed, you're going to understand what you did. Daniel had never understood. Not until that night. And by the time he finally did, 3 people were already dead. The story began 6 months earlier, when Daniel's life still looked perfect from the outside. He was 42 years old, successful, wealthy, and respected. He owned a construction company outside Portland, Oregon. He drove an expensive SUV, lived in a large house, and rarely had to worry about money. People who met him for the first time usually liked him. Daniel was charming, confident, funny. He knew exactly what to say and exactly when to say it. But there was another side of him that very few people ever saw. Daniel did not like losing. Not at business. Not in arguments. And especially not in relationships. His wife, Emily, had learned that years ago. At first, their marriage had been happy. They had met in college, married young, and eventually had a son named Noah. For a while, Daniel had been a loving husband and a devoted father. But success changed him. The more money he made, the more important he believed he was. He started coming home late. Then he started traveling. Then he stopped explaining where he had been. Emily noticed the change, but she tried to ignore it. She told herself that every marriage went through difficult periods. She told herself that Daniel was under pressure. She told herself that if she was patient, he would eventually become the man she had married. But patience can only hide the truth for so long. One evening, Emily found a message on Daniel's phone. It was from another woman. The message itself was not romantic. It did not contain anything explicit. But Emily knew immediately that something was wrong. She confronted him. Daniel did not apologize. Instead, he became angry. He told her she was paranoid. He told her she was imagining things. And then he said something that destroyed the last piece of trust between them. You should be grateful I still come home. Emily stared at him. For the first time in years, she realized something. Daniel did not believe he had done anything wrong. The next morning, she left. She took Noah and moved into a small apartment across town. Daniel expected her to come back. He believed she would eventually realize that she could not live without him. But Emily never returned. That was when Daniel's anger became something darker. He began telling everyone that Emily had abandoned him. He told his friends she was unstable. He told his parents she was trying to keep his son away from him. And he told himself that he was the victim. Then, one afternoon, Daniel met a woman named Rebecca. She was sitting alone in a coffee shop near his office. Rebecca was in her late 30s, elegant, calm, and strangely observant. She seemed to know things about people before they told her. They started talking. At first, it was innocent. Rebecca listened to Daniel complain about his divorce. She did not interrupt. She did not judge him. And most importantly, she agreed with him. You are the one who tried to save the marriage, she said. Daniel looked at her. You understand. I understand people. Rebecca replied. That sentence stayed with him. They began meeting regularly. Rebecca told Daniel that Emily had probably been manipulating him for years. She told him that some people were incapable of gratitude. She told him that certain relationships were not based on love. They were based on energy. And sometimes, she said, that energy had to be severed. Daniel thought it was all nonsense, at least at first. Then Rebecca introduced him to a small group of people who met every Thursday night in an old house outside the city. They called themselves the Circle. They did not describe themselves as a cult. They called themselves a spiritual community. Their leader was a woman named Mara. Mara was almost 60 years old. She spoke softly. She never raised her voice. And whenever someone entered the room, she looked at them as if she already knew their deepest secrets. During Daniel's first meeting, Mara said almost nothing to him. She simply watched. At the end of the evening, she approached him. "You are carrying someone else's anger," she said. Daniel smiled awkwardly. "I'm pretty sure I'm carrying my own." "No," Mara replied. "Your anger began before you were born." That sentence should have made Daniel leave. Instead, it made him curious. Over the next few weeks, Rebecca and Mara slowly convinced him that his problems were not really his fault. They told him that his family had passed down emotional trauma, that his father had been cruel, that his grandfather had been worse, and that Daniel was simply continuing a cycle he had inherited. There was some truth in it. Daniel's father had been a violent man. He had disappeared from the family when Daniel was 12. Daniel had spent years hating him. But the Circle offered him something he had never received before. An excuse. "You are not responsible," Mara told him. "You are a victim of the past." Daniel wanted to believe her. Because if she was right, then he did not have to change. He only had to find someone else to blame. Meanwhile, Emily's life was beginning to fall apart. She had never been interested in spirituality or the occult. But after the divorce, she began experiencing strange things. The first was a dream. In the dream, she was standing in an empty house. The walls were covered with photographs. Every photograph showed Emily with her back turned toward the camera. Then she heard a child's voice. "Mommy, don't let him in." Emily turned. Her son Noah was standing in the doorway. But he was much older. He looked like a teenager. And behind him stood a tall shadow. Emily woke up screaming. The dream returned 3 nights later. Then again. And again. Each time, the shadow stood closer. Eventually, Emily told her friend Sarah about it. Sarah immediately recommended someone. A woman named Evelyn. Evelyn was an elderly woman who lived in a small house surrounded by trees. She did not call herself a psychic. She did not advertise. People simply found her. When Emily described the dreams, Evelyn became unusually quiet. "Has anyone recently tried to influence your life?" she asked. Emily thought about Daniel. Then she thought about Rebecca. "I don't know." Evelyn looked at her. "Sometimes the most dangerous people are not the ones who hate you." Emily frowned. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes they are the ones who convince you that they are saving you." That night, Evelyn gave Emily a small piece of black thread. "Keep it in your home," she said. Emily almost laughed. But she took it. 3 days later, Rebecca showed up at Emily's apartment. Emily had never given her the address. Rebecca stood outside the door holding a small gift box. "I thought we should talk," she said. Emily immediately felt uncomfortable. "What do you want?" Rebecca smiled. "Nothing." Then she looked past Emily toward the apartment. "May I come in?" Emily did not answer. Rebecca's smile disappeared. "You should be careful," she said. People who refuse help sometimes regret it. Emily closed the door. That night, Noah woke up screaming. He said there was someone standing beside his bed. Emily rushed into his room. No one was there. But on the floor beside the bed was a small black mark. It looked like a circle burned into the wood. Emily called Evelyn. The old woman listened carefully. Then she said something that frightened Emily more than anything else. "Do not fight them with anger." "Who are they?" Evelyn did not answer. Instead, she asked, "Do you still have the thread?" "Yes." "Then keep it close." The next morning, Emily discovered something strange. The black thread was gone. She searched the entire apartment. She could not find it. That same day, Rebecca sent her a message. Just 4 words. "You should have listened." Emily stared at the screen. And for the first time, she realized that what was happening was not a coincidence. But the circle was not Rebecca's only secret. There was another member. A young man named Victor. Victor was 27 years old. He had grown up in a wealthy family and had always believed that the world existed for his entertainment. He was cruel when he was bored. He lied when it was convenient. And he never apologized. One night, Victor was driving home after a party. He had been drinking. His car crossed the center line. A truck hit him at full speed. The crash was so violent that the police later said no one should have survived. Victor did not die immediately. For 7 minutes, his heart stopped. During those 7 minutes, Victor saw something. He was standing in a dark room. There were no walls, no ceiling, no floor, only darkness. Then a door appeared. Behind it, he heard voices. Some were crying, some were screaming, and some were whispering his name. Victor walked toward the door. Then he saw a boy. The boy was about 10 years old. Victor recognized him. It was himself. The child looked terrified. "Why did you leave me?" the boy asked. Victor stared at him. "I didn't." The child shook his head. "You did." Then another figure appeared behind the boy. Victor's father. His father had been dead for years. Victor stepped backward. His father looked at him. "You had a choice," he said. Victor tried to speak, but no sound came out. Then lightning exploded across the darkness. Victor woke up in a hospital. His heart was beating again. Doctors called it a miracle. Victor called it a nightmare. For the next several days, he said nothing about what he had seen. But the dreams continued. Every night, he returned to the same dark place. And every night, the door became closer. Eventually, Victor began to change. He stopped drinking. He stopped visiting his old friends. He started calling people he had hurt. Some of them hung up. Some refused to speak to him. One man simply said, "It's too late." Victor understood. Apologies did not erase consequences. But he kept trying. Then, one morning, he received a phone call. It was from his mother. She told him his father was dying. Victor almost refused to visit him. For years, he had blamed his father for everything. The violence, the neglect, the fear. But as Victor stood outside the hospital room, he heard the same voice from his dreams. "You still have time." Victor entered. His father was lying in bed. He looked weak, almost unrecognizable. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then his father said, "I know you hate me." Victor looked at him. "I did." His father closed his eyes. "I deserve it." Victor expected to feel satisfaction. He did not. He only felt tired. Then his father whispered, "I was wrong." Those 3 words destroyed something inside Victor, because he had spent his entire life waiting to hear them. But they had come too late. His father died 2 days later. Victor attended the funeral alone. And that night, the door in his dream finally opened. Behind it was a bright white light. Victor stepped forward. Then, he heard a child crying. He turned around. The boy version of himself was still standing in the darkness. Victor looked at him. "What do you want from me?" The child answered. "Don't become him." Victor woke up before sunrise. And for the first time, he understood what the vision meant. He had spent his entire life blaming his father for the man he had become. But at some point, the responsibility had become his. The past could explain him. It could not excuse him. Meanwhile, Emily's situation was getting worse. Rebecca continued appearing in unexpected places. Outside the grocery store. Near Noah's school. Once, Emily even saw her standing across the street from the apartment in the middle of the night. When Emily called the police, Rebecca was gone. The police found no evidence. No threats. No crime. Nothing they could act on. Emily began to feel trapped. Then one evening, she received a call from an unknown number. A man's voice spoke. "Your husband is looking for you." Emily froze. "Who is this?" The man laughed softly. "You should ask yourself why." The call ended. That night, Emily took Noah and drove to Evelyn's house. The old woman listened to everything. Then she said, "You have two choices." "What choices?" "You can spend the rest of your life trying to defeat the people who want to control you." Emily stared at her. "Or you can stop giving them control." Emily did not understand. Evelyn pointed toward the window. "Fear is still a connection." Emily looked outside. The forest was completely dark. "What am I supposed to do?" "Tell the truth." The next morning, Emily confronted Daniel. She asked him directly about Rebecca. Daniel denied everything. Then Emily told him about the circle. His expression changed. For the first time, she saw fear in his eyes. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said. "Then tell me what it is." Daniel said nothing. Emily stepped closer. "Are you trying to hurt me?" Daniel looked away. "No." "Then why are these people following me?" He had no answer. Because the truth was that he had never directly ordered anyone to harm Emily. But he had told Rebecca everything. Every fear. Every weakness. Every private detail. And sometimes, giving someone information was enough. That night, Daniel went to the circle. He demanded answers. Mara was waiting for him. "You are frightened," she said. "I want this to stop." Mara smiled. "It will stop when you stop resisting." "What did you do?" "Nothing." Daniel grabbed her arm. For the first time, her calm expression disappeared. "You think you are powerful because you are angry," she said. "But anger is only useful when someone else controls it." Daniel released her. Then he noticed something on the table. A photograph. It showed Emily. And beside her stood Noah. Daniel picked it up. "Where did you get this?" Mara did not answer. Daniel looked at her. "What do you want?" Mara leaned closer. "The same thing everyone wants." "What?" "Someone to blame." Daniel left the house that night. But he did not go home. Instead, he drove to the hospital. He had no idea why. Maybe he remembered the accident. Maybe he remembered his brother, Michael. 12 years earlier, Daniel had been driving the car when the accident happened. He had been angry with Michael. They had argued. Daniel had been speeding. Michael had asked him to slow down. Daniel had refused. Then the crash happened. Michael died. Daniel survived. But Daniel had never told anyone the entire truth. He had told the police that the road was wet. He had said he lost control. He had never said that he had been racing. He had never said that Michael had begged him to stop. For 12 years, Daniel had lived with a secret. And now, sitting alone in the hospital parking lot, he finally understood what his brother's voice had meant. "You still have time." Daniel went inside. He walked through the corridors. And at 3 in the morning, the lights went out. Then he heard the voice. "Daniel." He turned. Michael was standing at the end of the hallway. Daniel could not move. His brother looked exactly as he had on the night of the accident. Young, pale, afraid. Daniel began to cry. "I am sorry." Michael said nothing. "I should have told the truth." Still nothing. "I should have stopped." The figure took one step forward, then another. Daniel fell to his knees. "I destroyed your life." Michael finally spoke. "No." Daniel looked up. "You destroyed yours." Then the hallway lights came back on. Michael was gone. Daniel stayed on the floor for several minutes. When he finally stood, he knew what he had to do. The next morning, he went to the police. He told them everything. The accident, the lies, the guilt. He expected to feel free. He did not. Truth did not erase the past, but it stopped the past from controlling him. Then Daniel called Emily. He did not ask her to come back. He did not blame her. He did not mention Rebecca. He simply said, "I am sorry." Emily was silent. Then she replied, "I know." Daniel closed his eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness." "You shouldn't." "I know." And for the first time in years, Daniel accepted the consequences of his actions without trying to escape them. Rebecca disappeared soon after. The circle was investigated. Several members claimed they had only been participating in harmless spiritual practices. Others said they had been manipulated. Mara vanished before the police could question her. Some people believed she had escaped. Others believed she had died. No one ever found her, but Emily kept one thing from that period: the black thread. She eventually found it inside Noah's bedroom wall. It had been hidden behind a loose piece of wood. She gave it to Evelyn. The old woman burned it. And as the smoke rose into the air, Evelyn said, "Remember this." Emily waited. "People often think evil begins with a ritual." She looked at the flames. "But most of the time, it begins much earlier." "How?" "With a lie." Years later, Victor became a different man. Not perfect. He still made mistakes. He still struggled with anger. But he stopped pretending that his past was responsible for every choice he made. He became involved in a program for young people whose fathers had abandoned them. He never told them that he had all the answers. He only told them the truth. "You may not be responsible for what happened to you, but one day you will be responsible for what you do next." Victor's son was born 2 years later. The first time he held the baby, Victor began to cry, because he suddenly understood something. Cycles do not end because someone wishes them to. They end when someone is willing to suffer enough to stop repeating them. And perhaps that was the real miracle. Not the lightning. Not the visions. Not the voice of a dead man in a hospital hallway. The miracle was that, sometimes, a person is given one final chance to see the truth. And when that chance comes, there are only 2 choices. You can return to the darkness that created you, or you can walk away from it. Even if you are afraid. Even if you are alone. Even if you have no guarantee that anyone will forgive you. Because sometimes, the greatest supernatural force in the world is not a curse. It is a choice. And the most terrifying thing about a choice is that, once you finally understand the truth, you can no longer pretend you had none.